You're on here. That's the main thing. Good morning, ladies. Good morning. Let's start out, get our hearts set. Remember we talked about last night? Let's have our mind where our feet is planted, right? God has you in this room this morning for a purpose. I believe that. He's given me the material to share from personal experience. But I just want you to know, as the word says in Philippians 3:12-14, not that I have attained, but I'll forget those things that are behind and press on, right? So today is a new day. It's a new start, no matter where you are in your walk of business, life with the Lord. We are starting a new day and a new plan and seeking the Lord on what does He have for you next, right? I have a little granddaughter. It's not being me because she got the red hair. So she would always, she's got, 3 years old or whatever, and we would talk about things. She likes to know the order of what things. So we could be doing something and then she'll go, next, what's next, Grandma? So that's what we should ask the Lord every morning. If we could come to Him every morning and say, Lord, whatever was behind me is good. So I want your will today. What's next? For you to serve, for me to serve your purpose through my life. We were created. I had one of my mentors one time talked about, we're a pipeline. We are a vessel pipeline from the Lord to wherever He wants that to flow. Okay. So my purpose here is to help assist you and training and learning on how to plan. Doesn't mean it's going to be 100% the way you're going to do it. I'm going to share what I have learned, give you some tools to use for your own self, and then you'll take it from there. Because what happens in your life, your plan is between you and God. Amen. So let's seek the Lord. Come on in. Come on in. Hey, what? Sorry.
Wait. Why don't? Yeah.
How are y'all? Okay. This is wonderful. She's gonna come over here. You can't stay. How could you sit up without spinning Everybody already knows me. My name's Debra. And here you go. So everybody has their handouts. So let's open up with the word prayer. Okay, you join me. Father God, right now, I just want to glorify you, Father. Magnify you, Father, for who you are. And Lord, I praise you and thank you for this opportunity. I am honored, God, today that you have allowed me an opportunity to be in this place. And I thank and praise you for each woman that sits in this training room here today, each woman that's watching the virtual, each woman that will watch the recordings in the days to come. And Father, I just praise and thank you that you have planned for each and every one of us. And may we hear your voice today. And Father, even as we walk through these planning exercises and tools to use for me, and I share with these women, Father God, I'm a firm believer. If you brought me through something, you will use it, Father, to send a message on to somebody else. So God, I'll be sharing from my heart and life experiences and how I have learned from you and through the mentors that you placed around my life. So Lord, I just ask you to just bless these mighty women, Father. Open up our minds today to hear what you have for us. And may we receive and grab hold of what you give to us today and move forward on the next step of our journey that you lead us into. We praise you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Repeat after me. He who began a good work in me, will bring it through to completion. Amen. God will do that. Our like someone was saying this morning, our point is to be obedient. And when we hear a call from the Lord in direction, to start moving forward that, and he will lead you every step of the way. I guarantee you, whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, you don't have all the answers right now. It doesn't happen that way. So with that, this morning I thought, God's timing is just so fun. I always love this. So I'm a little behind on doing some of my regular morning devotions. And what I've learned with time, don't beat yourself up. Okay, I have 2 or 3 different emails that I do, and like I talked about last night, the point is get that word in. But maybe I don't have time every morning to do all 3 of them, whatever, or by reading. So I have found over years and experience that it's so funny that if I'm going back and reading one that I probably maybe would have been dated to read a month ago, and I read it today, it's always really interesting how it really applies to me. And so one of my devotions that I get every morning is Christine Kane. Don't know if you're familiar. Oh, she's amazing. She does a morning devotion. And this was this morning. This is so good. One of the things that I always seek to do is purge anything that's hindering me from fulfilling God's purpose for my life. Because here's what I realized. Anything I say yes to means a no to something else. And while the process of ending something may be difficult and even painful, it's worth it. It's worth it to eliminate things in your life that yield only insecurity, fear, and anxiety. If there's an unhealthy pattern, ask God for clarity. Ask him for purpose. And ask him to reveal his heart for you in the season you're in. That's key right there. The season you are in. And that ties in with part of the material that I'm going to share with you. For every ending, there is a new beginning. Because our God is the one who makes all things. So, in your little handouts that you have there on the top of your name, you see a footstep, and it says, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, a single step." So that's where you are today. You're getting ready. Like I said last night, our walk with the Lord is a journey. It's not a destination. So today, you're walking out of this conference and going into a new season and journey of God. He brought you here for a purpose. So he's not going to let you leave here at 5 o'clock this afternoon and not you having something new to carry and have your keys. I promise it's going to happen. So let's look at the handout I gave you. Well, what are we going to talk about today? But I always think this is funny. I read a book several years ago, and the opening statement in the book was, "How did I get here?" All right, how did I get here? So I always think about this. You may be asking yourself, how did I get to this position? I did not apply for this, right? Whatever's going on in your life. So how am I? Well, I manage all these things, these hats that I'm wearing, and live to tell about it. That's what we wonder. Well, it all starts with plans. Brian Tracy says, he's one of the mentors that I set under, time management is life management. Right? Time management is life management. Sure. You cannot go back and get time back that's gone. So if you just let time just go fooey, then you've lost a part of your life that you can't go back. So when you learn to manage and plan your time, you will find out how much more fulfilling your life is. Because you will feel like I'm serving the purpose. It doesn't mean that every minute of every day you got to be doing something. No, because some of that time is planned for just I need a break. God just let me sit and refresh, and that's so important. And we'll talk about that too. I'm currently a student of John Maxwell going through a certification program. And he says, when you live each day intentionally, there's almost no limit to what you can do. You can transform yourself, your family, your community, and your nation. Think about what you can do when you are intentional with what you're going to do. So what we're going to cover here, we're going to identify where you are today. And a lot of this won't be talked about, it'll just be you. There'll be sometimes I have to share, but you'll within yourself. I want to start getting your processes and thinking, where am I today? We're going to think about where you want to be moving forward. We're going to discuss what are 5 most important things to focus your time on. And we're going to look at the process and purpose of planning, annual, monthly, weekly, daily. You start with the big scope, your goals, and you zone in. Because my goal is this, but how do I get there? Well, that's that daily action plan that's going to get you to what your big goal is. Okay. And always never forget, walk in faith. That's the big right there. Now, faith is the certainty of things hoped for, proof of things not seen. But you trust God, and He's going to take you where He's told you to go. And you just start making the move. All right. So where do I want to be? Your sheet that you have, color flyer, is one of my favorite passages. Let's just read this out loud. Somebody like to volunteer to read this out loud?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
Put it in writing, because it is not yet time for it to come true. But the time is coming quickly, and what I show you will come true. It may seem slow in coming, but wait for it. It will certainly take place, and it will not be delayed.
Habakkuk 2:3. So that's from the Word of God. Vision. He gives you vision. And He says, write it down. He said that in His Word. Now, call me old school, that's okay. But let me tell you something. I love all my apps on my phone, and I use it. Okay. However, you cannot take the place of literally writing out what God speaks to you. My question would be, so you've got to have on your phone and you're writing your vision, you've got a plan, your timeline, your steps, and you lose your phone. Where do you go? And then yes, you can lose the paper as well, I understand. But write it down. There's something about a vision. And you said, and I even will take something and maybe write a 3-month plan or timeline of the nuggets, and I'll have it taped on the wall by my desk. Or something. So you always want to be looking and thinking about that. Don't get discouraged. Do not lose heart about what God is telling you you're going to do. You write it down as He speaks it to you. Then you listen and seek Him for the what to do. It's just like the bridge hat. It all comes together. In different seasons of your life, He will have you looking on a different part of that vision that God. We talked a little bit about this last night in our group. It's scary. So I see what I'm supposed to do, but when am I supposed to do this? So just always remember, lift your eyes into the hills. And in all your ways, acknowledge Him. God, I know You gave me this vision. I know that You're calling me to do this. That's what the Word says. In all your ways, acknowledge Him. So just don't get discouraged. So, real briefly, I'm just going to give you a couple minutes here. And later, I want you to, put more thought into this, of course, when you can sit with the Lord and meditate on it. But right now, just right off the cuff, whatever's on the top of your head, go down through here. Mary Kay Ash always said, a goal without an action. Martin Luther King says, faith is taking the first step when you don't see the staircase. Oh, is that true or what? You know? So just right now, we're going to talk about where do you want to be, or where do you feel God wants you to be in a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. Just what comes to your mind, just right off the top. And I can give you all extra copies of the sheets that you just have later, so you write on there. A couple minutes to just to think about that. Okay. Martin Luther King said, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. Whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Don't allow the enemy to speak lies to you when you leave this place and you start seeking and praying on the Lord on what to do to meet those goals. Do not allow the enemy to tell you, oh, good grief, did you really think God wants you to do that? What are you thinking? Let's get real. Life circumstances. You will have a plan, and life circumstances are real. They will happen. The passing of a loved one, a job change. I mean, things can happen that you didn't plan that will immediately require your attention. But that's a pause. That's not a termination. So you pause. And that's when you maybe have to crawl. Maybe you normally spend an hour a day and do some kind of self-training or development classes. And you got this sick baby that needs you. Well, what kind of loving mom would ignore a sick infant? I don't think God would want you to do that. So you may have to do 10 minutes of training instead of an hour. But don't stop. Right? Don't stop. I wrote on the board, work your plan. Plan your work and work your plan. So I told you guys that I was a manager of Beacon Shield, and I would, you know, in my department, I had customer service, building, and data entry. And I would get sometimes I would come in with a list of the things I needed to do that day, and I get called into an unexpected management meeting or get an irate customer on the phone in my department, and I would need to take the call and help with that, or maybe someone called in sick, so I might have to help get something done that they had a deadline on. And sometimes at the end of the day, I would think, so in talking to my manager, his name is James, I said, James, I'm trying, I can't get things done that I need to get done. And it's so discouraging. He said, Debra, listen, he said, and he said, you're a list maker. I said, yeah. He said, I'll make 2 lists. I was like, I'll make 2. Okay, there. He said, listen. So, so what I want you to start doing is over here on the side of your little to-do list, I want you to start writing down every time something totally unexpected whacks up and you got to stop what you're doing because that requires your attention. Now, ladies, listen, there's a difference in you slumping off and something requires your attention. So always be thinking, what requires my time? Who else can handle it? Delegate, somebody else can take care of it. But he said, at the end of the day, I want you, before you go home, I want you to look, you go, okay, here's my planned to-do list I had today. These are the things I accomplished. But over here on the side is this list. Look at all the things that I did that were necessary and required and needed that wasn't on this side of the list. And he said, it's a mental, he told me, again, that goes back to the visual. He said, it's a mental thing. Because then you will walk out of the office and go, so that's life. That can apply to your everyday life. You can plan, think you're going to get, oh, I'm going to work on this week, this time, this time. But those unexpected things that are critical and require you will pop up. But the main thing is, are you starting with? Because remember, John Maxwell said, if you don't have intentionality, chances are it's not going to get done. So it can make a difference. So you want to always have a plan if you want a plan. So let's look at, give you a handout here. Just let you take one and pass it in. We talked about, well, what am I not going to do? How do I determine it? So one of my mentors one day, he said, you know what we need to do? He said, we need a what not to do list. You know, we all make to-do lists. So what about a what not to do list? And here's the bottom line, and I learned this through somewhere with a speaker or something. Every good thing does not mean it is good for me to do. It is okay to say no. So right now, I want you to say this. Repeat after me. It is okay.
It is okay
for me to say no. If it's not, or when it's not, what God told me.
to do.
And I always get tickled, you know, on the prayer calls, if you've been on those. Angie talks about Sister Glenda. And Sister Glenda is the one that's running around saying, well, you to work in the nursery and you teaching the Bible. And you. So my question to you, when you walk out of this conference today, is I want you to start thinking, asking yourself, am I doing this because God told me to? Because somebody else told me? Because there's a lot of good things out there. I mean, really, look at all the great organizations, community work, and things that are being going on. But you're not called to each of those things.
Yes.
And I would encourage you, if you've never done it before, to do a spiritual gifts analysis. Because that also helps you to determine, why am I feeling passionate about doing this? And it's okay to look at somebody and say, Pastor, I'm sorry, but I don't feel like that's God's call. That doesn't mean you're not being submissive to your pastor's support or your leader's support, but you're sharing. Can I share with you what God's called me to do? And question things that they don't respect. If you share with somebody, I have prayed and sought the Lord, and this is what I feel God's calling me to do. If someone doesn't respect that, all I'm going to say is, thank you. Okay, that could be a friend, community leader, anybody. Okay, but so I wanted to give you a double copy of this because that way you can put this, you can start one. But just as God gives you, and again, if you want more copies, take copies. You can also make copies for yourself. When you start to identify now, what are things that I'm spending my time on that are not my passion, not my call, and can be handled by somebody else? Because sometimes it's a process to delegate. When you allow someone else to do something that you took, and maybe you've taken something and you go, I'll do this, I'll do this. If it's not your calling, and you allow someone else an opportunity to do that, then it is their calling, their passion. You are empowering that person and encouraging them. So always think about that. Is this a requirement for me to do, or is this something that someone else can do? Okay, so in your, I'm going to pass these around. I'm giving you 2 copies, so you can make notes on one if you want, and then you'll have one if you ever want to run copies off at home, for extras. So I'm going to hand this to you. Just pass the whole thing around. Since it's set. Yeah, keep up. Yeah. Okay. There's okay. You stop down there, and then we're going this way. Hold up. Please. Hold on.
Yeah, I have 2. I just
It is 2 steps and 3 papers. And let's get Crystal one down here. Here you go. And again, I do have extra copies with you guys. Okay. I'm so make it confusing. I'm so sorry. See, none of us ace it 100% all the time. It's okay.
It makes sense.
All right. So the one set you can just keep to have, and the other set we're going to work on. So you can use this, and we're going to talk about 5 most important things. This is so important. This is one of the greatest things I had a mentor teach me to do. And I do this at different, I'll sit down and reevaluate this maybe monthly, quarterly, because things are different responsibilities going on in your life. But here are the 5 most important things for you to focus on. Number 1, he gets first, is God time. Okay? And that can be your morning devotions, your prayer time. Everybody can have a different way they're having that private God time. Number 2, personal care and development. See, you always want to be doing something for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. See, here's the bottom line. If you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to help somebody else? And then under that personal care and development also would be, what are you doing to develop the skills that God's given you? You may have some classes you're going to take, or extra Bible study you're going to read, or everybody's got different things, depending on what your goals are. What do you need to work on to prepare for those goals yourself? The 3rd most important thing is family and loved ones. Children, parents, whatever, relationship you're in, or if you're not married, if you are married, your spouse. Those things have to be built into your time. but they don't have to be all their time. Okay, I have adult children, I have grandchildren, I love them. I don't get to see them every day. Okay, talk on the phone, you know, touch base, you know, but I schedule my times to have a grandma week. I schedule, we do mother-daughter day out, you know, that's not something I can do every week, I would love to. But maybe I do that, you know, we do it every month, you know, or something. So schedule times to make sure you've got, remember what Christy Wright said, be where you have your mind, be where your feet are planted. So if you schedule time to be and spend with a loved one, an outing or something, then you go enjoy that, do it with not being distracted with everything that's going on in your life. That's important. Work or business income, we all need it. I like electricity, right? And I like a bed, you know what I'm saying? So there are things, and then, or you may be, you know, this weekend, some of you may be a business owner already, or you may be seeking the Lord on starting your own business. But no matter what you're doing for that, that is an area. And then the last of the 5 important things are the extended family, friends, community work, church volunteer work, you know, all of that falls into place. Now, here's a key thing to know. The order of the importance here does not mean that's where the most time is spent. So yes, God is always needs to be, at some point I need a God time in my day, every day. The job, your income source, or your business building or whatever, chances are that's probably going to be your biggest chunk of the hours of the day. And that's reality. So just because they're in this order doesn't mean like this is the most time, then that time, then that. You see what I'm saying? So you have to pray and seek the Lord on where do I put my hours in the day. But these 5 things should always be part of your life ongoing. But again, it doesn't mean you're going to do those things every day. So what I do, you have 168 hours in a day. I mean, in a week. Sorry. Somebody was like, oh, I do. I mean, you have 168 hours a week. So I'll kind of look at this monthly, you know, and say, what are my responsibilities for the month? I do a lot of things for my dad now, you know, so that's shifted into my life the last couple of years. I go to all his appointments with him. You know, he has rental property, so now I'm doing most, you know, I do his paperwork and things that he just isn't able to do all that. So I have to take into account. So that's part of my family care and responsibilities. So I'll look at, well, what have I got to get done for dad this month, you know, and I'll pencil that in. Under personal care, make sure you put your sleep time in. I'm serious. Yeah, for personal care, rest, relaxation, you know. And this may sound silly. I love to work word puzzles, you know, or play, you know, word games. So I'll try to, I might not get to do it every day, but maybe a couple times a week I'll walk off 30 minutes. I just will play a word game because I like it. Plus it's good for you, right? You know, so, you know, but this is something I just said. So, you know, plan your week. Who's going to get my time? Where do I need to be? But then I always remember what can happen. Things can shift. And that's all right. So let's look at a weekly plan. This is where y'all gonna think she is too extreme. But you know, it is too. This is who God made us. So I'm gonna let y'all look at this sheet here. As again, I have extra copies. But let's talk about, so now I've identified where am I going to put my 168 hours this week. I know I'm going to spend this time on this, but where am I going to do it? So what I do, and this is just me, this may not work for you, and that's okay. You may have your own way of doing things. Okay, so you've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I will take one of these sheets. This is just something that I use for myself, but there's all kinds of spreadsheets out there you can Google and find. You may find something that works better for you. Okay, so you do what works best for you. I'm just giving you an example. So I might say, okay, 6 a.m., that's my morning God time. And I literally, so you know, another thing that God showed me was, you know, the Bible talks about tithing. And everybody just assumes that's all about money. It's also your time.
Yes.
You know, if you tithe, your time as well as the money, you know. So I'll go on my sheet, you know, on Sunday nights, I like to sit down and look at my week, you know, okay, this is where I'm gonna do what. Okay, and then I might have, and I use different color highlighters just because I like to make it fun. So then let's say, you know, from 7 to 8, you know, that's my me time. You know, my shower, my get cleaned up, my da-da-da-da-da. Doing something to get myself set for the day, you know, I'm just using some examples here. And then we got work time or business. So maybe that's, you know, say from, with me, it's like a 10 to 6. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. All right. So then got my evenings. Well, what am I going to do? Well, let's see. On Monday evening, I'm gonna, because this is my full-time job in here, on Monday evening, let's see, I'm gonna work my small business. I'm gonna spend some time there on Monday and Thursday, okay? Tuesday night, I'm going to spend some time at Dad's doing his thing. You know, and I'll just use different colors, you know, for different things. So my purple represents my spending time with my family and those things. Then, you know, also, then on Wednesday nights, my boyfriend and I were going to a Bible study together. So that's a time that, you know, that we have blocked off together. Sundays, I got church. And then I usually try to spend Sunday night with my family or doing, you know, things like that. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm identifying where am I going to put my hours this week. And like I said, it's just a goal. It's just a plan. But then you also know, and then I always try to leave a couple of gaps that for those unexpected. And what I really like to do is I'll leave like one night toward the end of the week that if I had something planned here, but I had an emergency and I didn't get to do it, well, this is my catch-up night. So whatever I didn't get to do that I planned, I roll into that catch-up night. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, like I said, as an example of what works for me, but it may not work for you. Put it that way. You seek the Lord, there's other tools out there, you know, I just want to make it doable for you. So then when I know, okay, here's my week at a glance, that's what I call this. Then there's the day-to-day. So what am I going to do each day? And so I use this is just a little general form. And from season to season, I'll tweak it and put direct dates in there. So you can design, I mean, I just did this myself. You can set your own up or whatever works. But I'll have a daily plan sheet. Now this one y'all don't think she is extreme. I sit down on Sunday night and I look at the weather for the week. But you know, depending on what the weather is, might determine what I'm gonna wear. I mean, let's get it. All right, temperatures, I'll have one of these for each day, and I'll circle my in, I'll put my day, I'll write my what the weather's gonna be. I'm flipping y'all out now. And under here, I'll even write what I plan to wear.
Yeah.
Because, okay, I'm an administrative assistant for a car dealership full time. So, you know, and let me just say this, I didn't talk about this last night because God took me down a totally different path. But my boss is the friend of mine that we did ministry together. So we were partners, we were co-founders, and we ministered together. So when you talk about which hat when, I'm now her employee. She knew all the administrative gifts I had tucked down in there because she watched me use them all those years. So when I was moving back to my home county 4 years ago, she said, I need your help. You get in here and help me. So I'm working with her in her family business she's third generation family business, and I'm the office administrator. And so I can dress casual, you know, we can wear jeans, you know, or whatever. But I also am on a chamber committee, serve on a chamber committee, and I'm on the chamber to represent, you know, the business. So if I know I'm going to a chamber meeting or breakfast or an after hours, I'll spice it. I might not wear a t-shirt and jeans. I might wear, you know, a blazer or something. So that helps me because I literally go in the closet on Sunday night and you're going, oh my God, she really does this. Yes, I do. And I hang my outfits in order. So guess what? In the morning, you can plan something and save yourself hours. Okay? And so then I know what I'm gonna wear. I go in there, showers, it's clothes, I'm outdoor, you know. So I did this to my poor kids. You know, when they, you know, remember I told y'all last night what the schedule was like. These girls, we on Sunday night, get your outfits out, what have you got going on each day this week at school? They lined up their outfits and they had them stacked up and ready for the week. Because getting up in the morning and getting those kids out the door on the school bus, I ain't taking the time to figure out what you're wearing today. You know, do it. And so anyway, all that to say. Yeah, I'm crazy. But I'm just giving you some ideas, and my purpose for this today was just to give you some tools, talking to you from personal experience. But here's the bottom line: seek the Lord, write it down. What's He speaking? Write it down. As the word says, write this down, and then daily seek Him on the direction to accomplish each of these steps along the way. So I love having fun. I appreciate you all giving me the time to share with you. I just recall a funny story. This is when I was in that crazy schedule. And I mean, the girls knew we did one load of laundry every night. And like Monday night, we washed pants. Tuesday nights, we washed wash rags and towels. You know, they knew what to have in that hamper that night. Because when we got home from running all over those country roads, going to the ball games and everything, remember? Mom's coming in, you're getting ready for bed, I'm throwing laundry in. And if you don't have in there what needs to be in there, guess what? It will not get washed until next week. So, you know, train them, you know, you are the household manager. So you didn't apply for management, I'm really sorry, but you got it. If you have a home, you are the household manager. And these little things can just help you to, you know, I'm not OCD, I'm really not OCD. Because, you know, I am just scattered sometimes. So, but I just wanted to help you in some way. Okay, somebody share with me a takeaway from today. If you could share one point that you've gained out of this workshop today, what would it be?
The importance of making a plan because you gain time.
Making a plan gains time. That is really good.
I really like the to-do lists because I often, like, I mean, I am a to-do list person. I even at the time it's on my phone. So I really don't make a list of all the things that I did do that wasn't on my list. And I think having two lists, when I think there's only 10 things I have to do, but I ended up doing 25, it would help me be like, okay, so I only did 8 of my 10. But look, instead of the 2 things I didn't accomplish that I said I was going to do today, look at these 15 things I didn't even know I had to do. And I know that would give me a little bit like a sigh of relief at night.
Right. Well, when you don't get through your, we found over the years, we think similar. But when you don't get through your list, it's very overwhelming. Like it gives me anxiety. I'm like, I didn't do anything on my list, and I have all this other stuff that doesn't seem relevant. But then when you think about what it is, the scheduling, and something that it kind of reiterated with me. I do this, but I do a walk because as I was scheduling, I would get overwhelmed. I'm like, it's 9 o'clock. I'm 3 hours behind.
Yes.
Like it freaks me out.
Yes.
And then I'm like, okay, but I do a walk. So between 8 and 11, I have to accomplish something in this category. I schedule that for my housework. I may only get one thing done. But I got something and I had more, so I didn't feel like the calendar was owning me, like.
Right.
I love this, but I do blocks.
And that's what I do with the highlight, when I'm talking about,
Yeah.
you know, I actually use
Yeah.
purple for God time, you know, green for my work time. So I like the colors together. Orange is those things that if there's time I do it, you know, it's at the bottom, but. Yes, so that's what I'm talking about when I do the blocks, I will block off, this is work time. I may do different things in that
Right,
time,
the stuff's gonna
but
happen.
it's, yeah,
The required,
Yes.
side list.
I love that, love that. Who else? What's the main point you're taking?
I think it's a John Maxwell quote though, keep first things first. Because if you always do a priority, you will have a sense of accomplishment. But I do like this other list idea, because I mean, here I am, 40 years down the road. I've done a lot of this already, but never thought to keep the list of the things that are divine interruptions. I call it divine
That's,
interruptions.
I love that.
Divine interruptions, and welcome the divine interruptions. As long as you know that that is really, truly what only I can do. That God is saying, you do it, you do this. And I guess that's me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mine is, what are some things that you are doing that isn't your passion? That someone else can do? So I do a lot. I mean, and I'm good at doing a lot of different things. And I have to teach myself that just because I'm good at doing it doesn't mean I'm supposed to be doing it.
Exactly.
Just because.
Yes,
you
yes.
said I can. Yeah, and then sometimes even with the saying no, because people know that I can.
Yeah.
They'll ask, oh,
Yes.
that's easy for you to do, you can do it real quick, but it's a different type of muscle in my brain that I have to work to get this thing done, and I have to push something to the side, so now, yeah.
And that's the thing, yeah. And I think on that Christine King thing, you're saying yes to this, you're saying no to some things.
Well, with that, I put down, you know, what you said, sometimes delegation can be empowerment. And instead of you going, oh, I'm delegating you to do it, I'm empowering you to do it. That's a different mindset for me that way, where it's not like, oh, I don't want to do it, or I have other things. I want you to be able to do it. That's a big deal with my husband.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Yes. And a million things he asks me to do every day.
Absolutely. And when the 9 years that I did full-time ministry and had a team, you know, we had some people that helped me with administrative things, had a drama team. And so we would talk about the year and the theme for the year. And then we would, you know, each of the teams would take things. You know, and I was just saying, well, I do. That's not empowering them. That's not allowing them to do the gifts that God called them to do. So that's where I learned that really deeply. And then as a manager, you know, delegate, you know, when something comes up and you go, no, wait a minute. Does this require my hand? And I'm the only one here that can do this. Or who do I know that can take this task and do it well? And give them opportunity to step up.
Well, even in a household sense, you take that to like, cleaning, like. Well, why am I not budgeting out a part of my budget to delegate that to anybody outside of my house who I can pay to do that? And
Yes.
rather than shooting on myself that that therefore I should do all of these things that I'm terrible at, so.
And I have my daughter, my youngest daughter, she cleans for people and she does a magnificent job. So I'm like, when you've got time, mom needs her back. It's like, I don't have time, I'm not worried about it. But you know. It's so down. She's magnificent. She does a much better job than I do. But anybody else, what's the point you'll take home today? Teach.
Another thing for me was the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, reminded me of the verse Zechariah 4:10. So that's when the Israelites have been exiled and they were coming back
they started to rebuild the wall. And verse says, do not despise these small beginnings, for rejoice to see the work begin, to see the plumb line enter into his hands. This is plumb line. I have my plumb line. Now, this Lord is rejoicing in the plumb line I have in my hand. I haven't even used it yet. I'm just starting to think through the process. I've taken it and I'm stepping towards the job. He is rejoicing over that small beginning.
That's the, I mean, we think of the zone and I always thought, okay, the week, the 3 months, the
Yeah.
6 months, the year, and so think about the year, then the 6 months.
Yes.
Coming back down, and what can, then what can I do daily? to get there? So,
Yeah, you take the big picture. What are my life goals here? 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. Now, what action is required for me to get there? Okay, I've got to have that action. When am I gonna do this? What am I gonna do? How much time can I put into it this month? How much time can I put into it this week? How about today?
it makes it less heavy. Though,
Yeah.
too. It's almost like, okay, if in a year I wanna have 20 apples, then, or some grab, I just grab a slice a day. And those slices will add up to be,
Yes.
stats.
Change is a lot easier when it's a little bitty thing, that's for sure. It's not over and overwhelming, seeing that small little details.
Okay, I need 3 volunteers. When we go back out in the session, the open session, Angie has asked that each of our workshops have 3 people that would volunteer to share out there when she calls, I don't know how she'll do it. She may say, who was in Debra's class, 1 to 3. So I need 3 volunteers that would share what their takeaway point, or main takeaway point from the class was. Who would like to volunteer? That will do a summary. Take about 5 minutes. You'll have like 5 minutes to do a summary of what the class was. So let's start with that. Who wants to do the summary? And it can't be me. I'm delegating. Okay, she's gonna summarize. And who wants to be the volunteer? You'll just share your point, what you just did around the table here. You'll share what your takeaway point was that you got from the class. Okay, 1. You'll do it. 2. Or, all right. Okay, so we've got our summary girl and our 3 pointers, right? All right, well, I so appreciate you ladies giving me your time today and allowing me to share what I have learned through working with the Lord, working with mentors and leaders over the years, and how it's helped consistent in my life. And I promise it doesn't mean that I got it all together. Trust me, I can still be a Jennifer with the heads falling off. So, but it's once you got this in, you have that as a reminder. Let me back up. Let me do get this. So I just hope it was a blessing to you. I hope it's a tool that you can take home and use. I have extra copies of any of this stuff. If you want any extra copies, please let me know, and I'll be able to give those to you. I like this. What's more of that one? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
That way, you want to have one to make a copy.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.